With the eventual release of the first season of the live-action Avatar adaptation from Netflix coming soon, today I wanted to go over a fun little topic that got suggested to me as a video idea to make before the season did drop. This revolves around going through the original cartoon in Book 1 and picking out one episode that needs to be adapted and one episode that does not need to be adapted into the live action. We have 8 episodes worth of story for Season 1, and it will be interesting to see what they do adapt from the 20-episode arc that was Book 1. My fellow benders of all 4 nations, welcome to Uncle Iroh's Tea Shop, the Jasmine Dragon. Find yourself a seat, grab some jasmine tea, and enjoy the video. Like with my recent videos, let's see if we can hit a goal of 200 likes on this one. Now, given that we have already seen a lot from the promotions and marketing of the show through images, behind the scenes, and the trailers around where our characters are going and who they talk to, it is already important for us to list episodes from the list of 20 in Book 1 that we know they are already going to be adapting in some capacity. We know for a fact that they are adapting the first 5 episodes all the way to the Amashu arc. We know that they are going to be adapting the Winter Solstice arc, since Heibai has been prominent in the marketing along with the burnt up forest and a shot of Aang flying to the Fire Nation temple to speak to Roku. We know that they are adapting some form of the waterbending scroll episode, since we've already seen a sneak peek clip of Katara opening up the scroll of waterbending moves. Episode 10, where we first meet Jet and his gang, is being adapted, although I don't know if the exact story of that episode will be, but we will see him and his friends. We know the Blue Spirit episode is being adapted because of the fact that we've already seen the Blue Spirit scene where he breaks Aang out of the Fire Nation prison. Episode 15, Bato of the Water Tribe, is only confirmed to have some adaptations simply because of the fact that we know the character June will show up. Episode 17 of the Northern Air Temple we know is only being adapted to the characters, but we don't know yet if we will see the Northern Air Temple itself in the show. Finally, we have the Northern Water Tribe arc from episode 18, The Waterbending Master, all the way until the season finale of The Siege of the North Part 2. And yes, for those who are not in the know, the character of Paku has been casted and spotted in the behind the scenes, so it is safe to imply that episode is going to be adapted even if we knew they were already going to the Northern Water Tribe in the first place. Princess Yue herself has also been casted with Amber Midthunder playing her, but we just haven't seen her yet. So right there, out of 20 episodes from the cartoon, we know that 15 of them will have at least a full adaptation or some level of an adaptation through bringing in the story and the characters, or bringing in the location but not the characters, and vice versa. There are 5 episodes that I did not list. The first one is episode 6, which is the imprisoned episode following the character of Haru and the Fire Nation prison on the water. Episode 11, The Great Divide. Episode 12, The Storm. Episode 14, The Fortune Teller. And then episode 16, The Deserter. Now, to be clear, this is me only speculating that these episodes will not be adapted simply because of the fact that there has been no confirmed dimension or showcase through any of the promotion and marketing that I've seen or castings for some of the characters in those episodes. I would think that an episode like The Storm would be adapted as well, simply because of the fact that it is connected in with the Blue Spirit episode, so I guess you could probably also add that to the list. But again, we haven't seen any scenes from that episode, The Storm, to suggest that it will be. There is a rumor that there has been a casting for an Earth Nation prisoner in the show, which would lead to speculating that it is the imprisoned arc and could be Haru, but there's not really much to go off from that. The only other shot that would suggest that they are adapting it is from the new behind the scenes video they dropped the other day, where there is one shot of a person earthbending, and it looks like it could be familiar enough to the imprisoned arc where they actually are in prison and they are bending the coal, but again, that would be a long shot in my opinion. Out of these 5 episodes actually lies the number 1 episode that I don't think should be adapted, and I'll be honest with you all, I think you all probably knew exactly what I was going to say before you even started up the video. The Great Divide. I'm sorry, but you are just the one episode that I think needs to go. Listen, I'll be the first to admit, I think this episode in the original cartoon does have some fun to it, but in the grand trajectory of the entirety of the show, it really just isn't the most important episode that I think needs to have that adaptation. For the most part of the entirety of the runtime on this episode, it is just 2 separate groups of people yelling and bickering with each other. I think there are some cool life lessons inside of it with regards to the idea of how people can come together even if they have differences with each other, although again, when we are talking about the fact that this is a live-action adaptation that is making 8 episodes, you wouldn't necessarily think you'd have to keep this in a much more serialized form of a television season. On top of that, some of you in my comment section in one of my more recent videos have already said that you don't want to see The Great Divide be adapted, so just based on some fan interactions that I've had, it seems like a lot of people would definitely agree that this is the one episode that doesn't need that adaptation. This would also mean that you would be removing one of the more prominent 3 episodes that has earthbending when talking about the original series in Book 1. Obviously, I know that earthbending is not the main focus out of all of the 4 elements in Book 1, but if you are somebody whose favorite type of bending is earth, you are probably not going to get a lot of that in this first season, especially if we are also talking about the fact that maybe we don't get the imprisoned episode adapted fully. The most amount of earthbending we will see probably will come from the fight between Aang and Bumi. Let's now talk about the one episode that I think needs to be adapted from Book 1 and adapted very well. Now, I'm actually going to cheat a little bit here because technically it is a 2-episode arc, but the importance as a whole I think is something that needs to be established. That for me, ladies and gentlemen, is the Winter Solstice arc, episodes 7 and 8 from the original. And I'm sure some of you are probably calling me crazy, thinking, why didn't I pick the Siege of the North? And I'll tell you why. Given the information that we have come to be aware of with regards to how Netflix and the showrunners of this adaptation are adapting the cartoon, we know that there is going to be a heavy importance on the idea of how they establish Sozin's comet coming by summer's end. At the same time, this is also the first slew of episodes where the idea of the spirit world, Avatar state, and Aang's established connection and relationship with Roku really takes off. Even though he's not really in Book 1 for a good chunk of time, Roku's presence alone in the Winter Solstice arc is insanely important for how he tells Aang of what's to come. It is also even more important now that we are getting this adaptation and the showrunners have established that there is going to be a bit of a change with regards to the Sozin's Comet plotline. This comes from the fact that since it is a live-action show, the actors will be aging up, and so they can't really do the whole year-long journey when figuring out the details behind it and also with Aang learning the elements. There is no more important of an episode, or in this case, 2 episodes that need to be established because of these factors that are outlined. I really do need to see how they execute that conversation between Aang and Roku because it will establish so much of what the future of this Netflix adaptation could be like. To be clear, again, this is mainly part 2 of the arc that I think is as important of an episode as part 1 of Winter Solstice, but both in their own way establish each other because of that journey. I will definitely be curious to see your comments down below if you are in agreement with me simply because of what the original cartoon episode established, but also now with the Netflix adaptation version is going to establish again given the factors that we know are coming. I guess for the fun of it as well, I'll add in 2 honorable mentions of episodes that I think do and don't need to be adapted. The Deserter is an episode that I'm actually weirdly going to say I don't think needs to be fully adapted. I know, listen, this is an episode that established that Aang was learning firebending way too quickly and too early on, and also, it did establish the character of Zhong. I think Zhong as an adaptation is interesting, but admittedly, sadly, I will confirm it here now that he has not been casted in the show either. I am not saying that he won't show up, but I'm just saying it hasn't been confirmed that he will because there hasn't been a casting for it. Admittedly as well, he is a character that shows up basically 2 times in the entirety of the original cartoon, once during the Deserter and then the last time, which is at the very end during the Sozin's Comet arc where he fights with the White Lotus. Again, I think this episode has some good lessons to it, but in the grand nature of what the show is going for, I don't know if it is necessarily needed all that much. My honorable mention for an episode that I think should be adapted is Bato of the Water Tribe. Now, like with the Deserter, there has been no official casting announcement for the character of Bato, so it is safe to assume that he will not show up, so I am wondering how they are going to establish the whole thing with Aang losing his trust with Katara and Sokka. That was a prominent thing with that episode, specifically that established their connection as a group moving forward. Like I mentioned earlier, we know June is coming in, so there is clearly something from that episode in the cartoon that they are adapting from. I don't know what the story is going to be, all I know is that I would love to see how their trust as a group gets split for just a little bit before Sokka realized in the original that his and Katara's journey with Bato wasn't important and they needed to be with Aang. And that right there, I think, is how I'm going to end it off, ladies and gentlemen. I want to get to the most important part of every video now, which is to hear your thoughts and comments. Please let me know down below how you feel about my commentary on the episodes that I spoke to. At the same time, also comment down below if you guys have different picks for which episode you would like to see be adapted and not adapted. I cannot wait to hear what you all have to say. If you did enjoy this video, please be sure to give it a like and subscribe to the channel if you are new here and turn on the notification bell for whenever I upload in the future around the Netflix adaptation. On your way out of Uncle Iroh's tea shop, be sure to let him know how much you appreciate his jasmine tea and his words of wisdom that come with it. I hope everyone here has a wonderful rest of the day and a good weekend, and I will see you all soon for more Avatar.